Hello and welcome to Cycling Weekly's preview of stages 10 to 15 of the Giro d'Italia, the 100th edition of the race. We're now about to face stage 10, which is the first individual time trial of the race and takes place after the second rest day.
It's a 39-kilometre time trial from Foligno to Montefalco. Wouldn't call it mountainous, but there's a few rolling roads that will at least give some sort of hope to the GC men who rely more on their climbing than their time trialling to put them in the pink jersey.
So Vern, which sort of riders do you think is going to be licking their chops at this?
It's probably Tom Dumoulin, Geraint Thomas, are probably some of the favourites for a stage like this.
I think guys like Adam Yates and Nairo Quintana are going to be really limiting their losses on this sort of stage. It actually reminds me of the first time trial in last year's Tour de France. Quintana lost 3 minutes, Yates lost 3 minutes, Nibali lost 3.5 minutes. There can be some big time losses on a stage like this.
Could this time trial decide the race?
I think that would be going a bit too far. It will certainly make things interesting for the latter stages of the race because you're going to have the likes of Quintana, Yates, Nibali possibly losing substantial time, as Henry said, which means they're going to have to go on the attack because there won't have been the opportunity to make that kind of time, I wouldn't have thought, in the preceding week.
Coming where it does after a rest day, what impact is that likely to have?
If guys are going to have a bad day, it's going to be after a rest day. You don't know how your body's going to react. So if you take it too easy, then your body might think, right, that's race over, I can just shut up shop here. But if you go out and do a 3-hour ride with loads of efforts and it's really hard, then you're tired. So it's a really hard balance to make on that rest day. And I think there could be a few guys who might lose a bit more time than they might be hoping for because they haven't worked that rest day out properly.
More so you're liable to do that in a time trial than a regular road stage because there's nowhere to hide. You can't sort of bluff your rivals into not attacking you. You're going to lose whatever you're going to lose, and that's the end of it really.
So moving on from stage 10, stage 11 starts in Florence and finishes in Bagno di Romagna. What are we thinking?
Breakaway, it's got Breakaway written all over it. There's a big climb early in the stage to let a big group go away. It's a descent towards the finish. It's a fairly technical descent, it's a fairly technical finish.
All the GC guys would have been focused on that time trial the day before. There's several stages kind of coming up that aren't really suited to them. They won't be interested in chasing anything down, and that ultimately is what means that the Breakaway will be victorious.
Yeah, I think we should, if you want to look at the riders who might do well in this stage, then you can look right at the bottom of the time trial standings. If you see guys like Giovanni Visconti or Moreno Moser who have come in 180th place, they're saving their legs.
The next stage, from Forlì to Reggio Emilia.
It's a bit of a long one, but it's generally flat, so I think we should be able to see a sprint finish.
Do you think we will have seen any sprinters abandon already, or do you think they'll still be holding out for this in the following stage?
I think they'll probably, I would have thought if you bothered to make the journey, you'd probably stick around for these two. There's so few opportunities for sprinters that, when those opportunities are there, I think it makes it more likely that it's going to come down to a sprint.
Stage 13 in particular is the flattest stage ever in any bike race.
It might not be one to watch from start to finish.
I think the people who are going to be most worried about stage 13 are TV commentators who are going to have to really swat up on all their best anecdotes and stories to fill the void.
Let's hope the local tourist boards have got plenty of information on the castles.
After those two sprint stages, 12 and 13, we move on to stage 14, which looks like it's got quite an interesting finish.
On paper it looks fairly simple. It's a big flat stage and then a gentle uphill finish, but this is actually a really tricky climb. It's not the longest, but the gradient is constantly varying. It's 4%, 14%, 12%, 7%. It's definitely not the hardest summit finish on the race, but it provides plenty of opportunities for more explosive climbers to gain a bit of time.
Could this be a climb that causes real difficulty to those diesel engine climbers like Geraint Thomas and Tom Dumoulin?
I think it's unlikely you're going to lose sort of race losing kind of time on something on a single climb like that, especially when there's not been multiple climbs beforehand. But you know, it could be certainly an opportunity for, like you say, for like a Quintana or something like that to pull back some of that time lost in the time trial.
And then stage 15, there are a couple of significant looking climbs close to the end.
The race is in the Alps now. It's up in Bergamo, right in the north of Italy. So the mountains will be all around them, and there are a couple of fairly testing climbs and the technical finale. I think this is probably one of the hardest stages in the race to predict. If there's a sprinter who's climbing well, they can get over it. There could be a breakaway, or we could even see, with a rest day coming up the next day, one of the GC guys trying to gain 15, 20 seconds. I think it's really hard to predict this one.
I'd agree with that. It's a difficult one to call, and it's one of those ones where it's going to depend how the stage is raced. That said, you can see quite a lot of incentive for the GC teams and maybe the sprint teams who just look at those times and think it's not worth it.
Thanks for joining us on this preview video. Join us next time for the preview of the final stages of the Giro d'Italia.